She said, "My parents won't respect you until you pay off my student loans." I replied, "I understand." Then I paid off my own mortgage instead. The look on their faces when they realized I can't be bought or controlled. I've always been the kind of guy who believes that relationships should be partnerships, not transactions. I grew up in a middle-class family where my dad worked in construction and my mom was a nurse. We didn't have much, but they taught me the value of honesty and hard work. When I met Jessica, she was magnetic. Beautiful, confident, ambitious, she had this sharp, go-getter energy that drew everyone in. She worked in marketing at a small firm, always talking about wanting more out of life. More success, more travel, more recognition. I admired that drive. I worked in IT consulting, a field that's stable but not flashy. I wasn't rolling in money, but I'd done well enough to buy a small house in my early 30s. Mortgage halfway paid off, solid savings, nothing extravagant. At first, Jessica loved that I was grounded. She said she felt safe around me. But as our relationship grew, I started noticing how that same stability started to bore her. She'd drop little comments here and there. "You're so responsible. It's cute. I wish you'd take more risks. You could be making so much more if you tried harder." It wasn't outright cruel, but it chipped away at me. Her parents, well, that was a whole other story. They were upper-middle-class professionals, proud of their status. The first time I met them, her father asked, "So what do you drive?" before asking what I did for work. Her mom smiled politely, but seemed more interested in whether I'd ever considered real estate investments. Still, I tried. I wanted to be liked. I brought them a bottle of good wine when I visited, helped fix a leaky faucet during a barbecue, and tried to fit in. Then, one Sunday dinner, everything shifted. Jessica's mom was going on about her daughter's potential, saying she could have gone to grad school if not for her student loans. I listened quietly, nodding, when her dad suddenly turned to me. "You've been with Jessica for, what, 2 years now?" I said, "Yeah." "And you're serious about her?" "Of course," I said, smiling at Jessica. Then he leaned back, folded his arms, and said, "Well, son, if you really want to prove you're serious, maybe help her get out of that debt. You're a man, take initiative." Jessica didn't say anything. She just stared at her plate. I laughed awkwardly, thinking he was joking. But then Jessica's mom chimed in. "Honestly, it would show commitment. You two are building a future, right? Money shouldn't be something you let stand in the way." I remember that tightness in my chest, that slow realization that they weren't joking. After dinner, Jessica and I got into the car. I waited for her to say something like, "Sorry about that, they're insane." But instead, she said softly, "They're not wrong. You know, it would mean a lot to them if they saw you investing in my future. It's not like they respect you right now." I stared at her. "So, you think I should pay off your loans so your parents will respect me?" She shrugged. "It's not about the money. It's about what it represents. They just want to see that you're serious, that you can provide." I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly and said, "I understand completely." She smiled, squeezed my hand, and said, "I knew you'd get it." What she didn't realize was that I did get it, just not the way she thought. The next few weeks, I kept my head down. I didn't bring it up again. I acted normal, maybe even extra affectionate. I took her out, listened when she complained about work, even helped her polish her resume. Meanwhile, I quietly called my bank and arranged the final payment on my house. It wasn't easy. It took nearly all my savings. But when the letter came confirming my mortgage was fully paid off, I sat in silence for a long time, just staring at it. No more debt. No more pretending I had to prove anything. 2 weeks later, Jessica's parents invited us to a family dinner again. Same table, same tone, same smug energy. Halfway through the meal, her father brought it up casually. "So, son, have you thought about helping Jessica with her loans?" I smiled. "Actually, I did something better." Jessica looked at me, curious. "I paid off my house." Silence. Forks clinked. Her mother blinked, confused. "Your house?" "Yeah," I said calmly. "I figured, if I'm going to be part of a family, I should make sure I'm not carrying debt. Stability first, right?" Her father's expression twisted. It was subtle, but I caught it. Disapproval. Disbelief. Jessica's face, though, was the one that stuck with me. It was like she didn't know whether to be impressed or angry. That night, in the car, she exploded. "Do you realize how selfish that was?" "Selfish," I said quietly. "I just made sure we'd never have to worry about rent or a mortgage again." You could have helped me first, she yelled. My loans are what's holding us back. I just looked out the window and said, No, Jessica, entitlement is what's holding you back. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the drive. 2 days later, she packed a bag and went to stay with her parents for space. I didn't stop her. The silence after Jessica left was almost peaceful. For the first time in a long time, my house didn't feel like a test I had to pass every day. No sarcastic remarks about my lack of ambition. No sighs when I suggested staying in instead of going to yet another networking dinner with people she didn't even like. I won't pretend it didn't hurt, though. I loved her, or at least the version of her I'd built in my head. The woman I thought I was planning a life with. But after that dinner, something inside me had quietly clicked into place. I finally saw the pattern. Jessica didn't love me. She loved what I could do for her. That realization was both painful and liberating. I spent the next few weeks focusing on work. Without the emotional chaos, I finally had energy to chase a few things I'd been putting off. Finishing a software tool I'd been developing on the side, automating parts of my consulting work. 2 months later, one of my clients offered to license it. The deal went through, and suddenly, my boring consulting gig started bringing in more money than I'd ever made before. Ironically, the same week that contract cleared, Jessica texted me. Jessica, hey, I've been thinking. Can we talk? Me. Sure. About what? Jessica, us. We met at a cafe downtown. She looked different, tired, less confident, like she was trying to figure out what to say without losing face. I've been reflecting, she started, playing with her coffee spoon. I realize I was unfair to you. My parents, they put pressure on me, and I took it out on you. I nodded. That's fair. I thought we were a team. And when you made that decision without telling me, I did tell you, I interrupted softly. I told you I understood completely. She smiled weakly. Yeah, I guess you did. There was a pause. Then she leaned forward. Look, I miss you. I miss us. And now that you've paid off your house, maybe we can start fresh. Build something real. Something about the way she said that made my stomach twist. She wasn't talking about love. She was talking about positioning. I took a sip of my coffee, keeping my voice calm. Jessica, I think we both know what this is. You want stability, and I don't blame you for that. But stability isn't something you take from someone. It's something you build with them. Her eyes started to water. So that's it. After everything we've been through. I shrugged. You showed me who you were when you said your parents wouldn't respect me until I paid your debt. I just believed you. She didn't say another word. She left the cafe quietly, shoulders shaking, and didn't look back. A few weeks later, I ran into her dad at a charity golf event through a mutual acquaintance. He spotted me near the clubhouse, smiled like nothing had ever happened, and said, You know, I didn't expect you to take my advice about paying off debt that seriously. I just smiled. Best decision I ever made. He laughed, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, Well, if you ever change your mind about my daughter, she could use a man like you now. Tough times since she quit her job. I nodded, polite but distant. Yeah, I heard. I hope she finds what she's looking for. About a month later, Jessica posted on Instagram for the first time in a while. A quote image that read, Sometimes you lose someone you thought you needed, and realize it was freedom. The irony wasn't lost on me. Meanwhile, I quietly made my final payment on my company's new office space. No fanfare, no big reveal, just quiet progress. One night, sitting on the porch, I got a text from my mom. Proud of you, son. Your dad said you finally own the house outright. I smiled, sent her a photo of the deed, and wrote back. Yeah, feels good to own nothing, to anyone. And for the first time in years, it really did. Update 1. It's been about 6 months since Jessica and I last spoke. Life has been oddly steady. My business picked up traction after that licensing deal, and I started mentoring a few small startups on the side. I'd even been seeing someone new, quietly, nothing serious yet. It was refreshing, being with someone who didn't turn every dinner conversation into a competition about who was doing better. Then, out of nowhere, Jessica texted me again. Jessica, hey, I know it's been a while. I really didn't want to reach out, but I need some help. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Me? Are you okay? Jessica, not really. My mom's been sick. Hospital bills are piling up. My dad's company's been struggling. I just don't know who else to talk to. I'll admit, that one hit me. Her family had been condescending. Yes, but I'm not the kind of person who can ignore someone in genuine distress. So I agreed to meet for coffee again. She showed up wearing the same perfume she used to. It was strange how scent can drag memories up like ghosts. But she looked deflated, not in a manipulative way this time, just tired. She told me her mom had indeed fallen ill, and her dad's firm was under investigation for mishandled funds. The house they were so proud of might have to be sold. I'm not here to ask for money, she said, eyes glistening. I just, I don't know how to fix anything anymore. And for the first time, I didn't feel resentment. Just distance, a calm, sad sort of clarity. Jessica, I said quietly, you don't have to fix everything. You just have to stop expecting other people to fix it for you. She nodded slowly, looking down. You've really changed, she whispered. No, I said. I just stopped living in other people's expectations. We talked for a bit longer, about nothing heavy, her mom's treatment plan, work, random things. When she got up to leave, she hugged me. It was brief, hesitant, almost apologetic. You were good for me, she said quietly. I just didn't know how to see it. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That night, when I got home, I found an envelope in my mailbox, forwarded from my parents' address. It was a letter from the bank confirming my new investment property had officially transferred to my name. A second home. It was strange timing, almost poetic. I looked at the paper, then at my phone, still lit with Jessica's last message. Thank you for still caring. I didn't respond. Because the truth was, I didn't care for her anymore. I just cared enough not to hate her. And that, I realized, was closure, final update, 1 year later. It's strange how a single year can feel like both a lifetime and a blink. Since that last coffee with Jessica, my life took a turn I didn't expect. Not because of her, but because I finally stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. I expanded my business, sold one of my smaller startups, and finally launched the mentorship program I'd been planning for years. My days filled up with purpose, not pressure. I bought a small house by the lake. Quiet, nothing extravagant. Every morning I sit on the porch with my coffee and watch the sunrise spill across the water. Peace, I've learned, doesn't come from achievement or approval. It comes from choosing stillness over noise. Then one evening, while attending a local charity gala for small business owners, I saw her again. Jessica. She was standing near the entrance, dressed elegantly as always, but there was something different. Not the effortless confidence I remembered, but a nervous energy underneath it. She saw me before I saw her, and for a second, our eyes met. That same spark of recognition, that brief flicker of what if. She smiled hesitantly and approached. Wow, she said softly. You look really good. I smiled back. Thanks. You too. We talked for a bit, polite, cautious. She told me she'd moved back in with her parents for a while after her mom's recovery, and that she was now working as an assistant manager at a marketing firm. She mentioned how tough things had been, but that she was trying to rebuild. Then she said something that caught me off guard. You know, she began, staring down at her glass. I used to think love was about finding someone who could take care of everything for me. Someone who'd make my life easier. But I get it now. That wasn't love. That was fear. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Her words already held all the truth she once couldn't face. When you paid off your mortgage instead of my loans, she continued with a faint smile, I told myself it was selfish. But now I see it was boundaries. Real ones. And I respect that. There was a quiet moment between us. Not tense, not regretful. Just two people who had finally stopped fighting the versions of themselves they used to be. I'm glad you're doing okay, I said sincerely. You too, she replied. Then, with a sad smile, guess we both ended up exactly where we were meant to. We parted ways shortly after that. She left early. I stayed a bit longer, talking with colleagues and investors. But at some point, I caught myself glancing at the door, realizing, for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel that ache anymore. No bitterness, no longing, just peace. Driving home that night, I passed by a quiet street I used to walk with her years ago. The memories flickered, laughter, arguments, late-night drives. But instead of pain, I felt gratitude. Every broken expectation, every uncomfortable truth, it all led me here. To this version of myself. The one who no longer apologizes for choosing self-respect over validation. The one who loves quietly, deeply, but never at the cost of his own peace. When I got home, I stood for a while on the porch, watching the reflection of the moon on the lake. My phone buzzed, a message from the woman I'm seeing now. Her. Made dinner. Don't stay up working too late again. Smiley face. I smiled. Not because it was some grand, romantic gesture, but because it was simple, kind, and real. I typed back, me, on my way. And as I locked my phone, I realized this was what love should have always felt like. Not a transaction, not a test, just two people choosing peace together.